What's going on, Bulls Nation? Welcome in to CHGO Bulls Pregame, coming live from our studios here in West Loop, downtown Chicago. I'm Peck, Bulls_Peck. Back in studio with us as the Bulls are back on the road. Our guy, Will, the GO Gottlieb, Will_Gottlieb, and our pal producer on the controls, Joey Spathis. He's at Joey Spathis. What's up, Joe?
What's up with you, Matt?
I'm hanging out, man. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday, Will.
Yeah.
Happy Friday.
Happy
Honestly,
9 games left day.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I have no idea what day of the week it ever is. It's
Dude.
just, is there a game today? Is it home?
Right.
Is it away?
Exactly.
Am I going to the United Center? Am I going to CHGO office?
Bulls bookending the weekend. They got a game tonight. They got a game Sunday.
And a game Monday?
And actually, yeah, that's the front end of a back-to-back. They got a Sunday, Monday.
And then
Game's
not
flying
again,
by.
Not again until
Almost
Friday.
Yeah. Woo!
they
What's
got a
up,
weird week.
mans? Nigel, Daniel, Barry Sports, Cassie, everybody hanging out in the comments. Bulls have the Nets on deck tonight out in Brooklyn. Third and final game against these Brooklyn Nets this season. The Bulls 0-2 against the Nets, somewhat surprisingly, because the Nets are trash. But they played the Nets both times back in November when so much was different. Actually, about both of these teams. Like, Ben Simmons even played in one of those Bulls-Nets games back in November. Zach LaVine and Patrick Williams played in both of those first two losses to the Nets. So, kind of throw those out, considering what the Bulls are working with now. We will have some injury updates and starting lineups for both Bulls and Nets in just a couple minutes. But wanted to start today's pregame with some more chat on what you did a wonderful job with on your latest GOAT 101 diehard only newsletter. By the way, if you aren't a diehard, here's your latest reason to sign up. Entitled, "It's Not Such a Simple Game When It Comes to Chicago Bulls Post-Ups." GOAT, you broke down what kind of efficiency the Bulls are getting, or lack of efficiency the Bulls are getting from their post-offensive possessions this season. You looked specifically at Vooch, Drummond, and DeMar, and you also got some interesting quotes from Billy Donovan talking about getting paint touches, and not necessarily paint shots, but paint touches, because he's trying to kind of bend his offensive style around what he has to work with right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just kind of an interesting thing to dig into philosophically, because I think a lot of times people will say, well, Billy loves to play 3-guard lineups, or, oh, Billy doesn't adjust well to whatever. And I think the reality of the situation is, and he even said this, but I think just from my perspective, kind of watching the teams that he's coached, I think it's totally true that he has to adjust his style to what talent is around him, what personnel the Bulls have, and then, you can make tactical choices around that. And so, for me, I think what kind of spurred this is obviously like when you're listening to games and you hear on the broadcast, Stacey's always angling for the Bulls to look into Vooch in the post, simple game, get him a touch, little baby hook, 2 points. It's not quite that simple. And, one, I think it's just it's lost its efficiency over the last 10 years in the NBA. Teams are moving away from that. But the Bulls still do it, I think, at the 6th highest rate in the entire NBA. So why are they doing it so much? Is it a personnel thing? In part, you've got guys like DeRozan and Vooch and Drummond, who has been posting up a lot this year, who are pretty efficient, relatively speaking, when they get down there. But I think the bigger picture piece of it is you have the ability to draw two, bring help over, and now you can get a kick out to a 3,
right,
or create something else on the backside. So I think there is a little bit more of a complexity to it than just, get the ball to the guy in the post, bigger man scores over littler man.
Yeah. If you haven't gotten a chance to read GOAT's newsletter that dropped this morning? Yesterday?
This morning.
There are some pretty, eye-popping numbers in there. Maybe you can, help us walk and talk through them. When it comes to Vooch specifically, because I know Bulls fans have serious issues with his offensive game, 17.5% of his offense coming in post-ups, which is the 93rd percentile in the entire NBA.
Yep.
And scoring just 0.93 points per possession, which is middle of the road 42nd percentile. And you pose the question in your column, why send help if the threat isn't that threatening when you're talking about those Vooch post touches?
Exactly. I mean, I watch some of these games and it's like you can reliably count on the defense to send a double at Vooch, and it's like, well, why are they doing that? He's not very good in the post. He's like resorting to this like turnaround Dirk fade. Sometimes he does have that baby hook going.
Right.
He has a little flip shot
or his
going,
little step through,
and that works. But like if I'm a team in the NBA, I'm thinking like, post-ups are inefficient. I'm just going to let him have that. I'd rather have that than an open three on the backside. So the Bulls run a ton of post-ups, 17.5%, as you said, 93rd percentile, meaning it's very far up there in terms of frequency that he's going to it. And then on the points per possession, the efficiency of it, he's only scoring 0.93. So less than 50% from the field, about 42%. On those shots. It's really low efficiency. So if you are a defense and you're game planning for the Bulls, like, why not just let him have that?
Yeah.
I think the answer is you look at the way that they're defending it. You see when the Bulls make plays out of the post, so on post-ups that include kick-out passes, which the Bulls run almost 43% of Vooch's possessions, which is a mammoth number.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They're scoring even lower. So when they have an opportunity to get an open three on a kick-out after the ball is swung out of a double team in the post, they're scoring even fewer points per possession. So if you're a defense and you're thinking, well, should we just send help at Vooch and, get the ball out of his hands? Why not? Because these guys can't shoot the ball anyway, or they can't make decisions out of closeouts.
If you want to toss that graphic back up again, Joe, to look at those Vooch numbers, you mentioned the not quite 43%, but that is the 99th percentile as far as post-up touches that end with, or that also include kick-out passes. 21st percentile in offensive efficiency when you're talking points per possession on those possessions. And then you go to Drummond, your other center, your other guy who I think a lot of Bulls fans have said, hey, like Drummond's more efficient. Let's get Drummond some more minutes. Let's get Drummond some more post-up touches. He right up there along with Vooch, 95th percentile as far as frequency of post-ups with his offensive touches, 88th percentile post-ups and passes. His efficiency is basically right where Vooch's is on those post-up possessions. The post-up pass is a little bit better than Vooch, but not like by leaps and bounds.
Yeah, and the one thing I didn't really get into with this is like how these post-ups are happening. So with Vooch, it's like, all right, they try to get him into a pick and roll set, and then he rolls into post position to where they can get him the ball. With Drummond, it's like he's ducking in from the dunker spot. He's getting a late steal, and he's going straight up. So it's not the same where they're playing through Drummond. It's more like he's a play finisher, whereas Vooch is creating offense. So it is a little bit different. But, I mean, yeah, Drummond is posting up quite a lot, and the results have not been so good. It's maybe a little bit easier for him because he has that better position, because it's in, he's kind of playing out of an advantage as opposed to having to create one himself. But, at the same time, he's going against worse bigs in defending lineups. A lot of teams will play either their kind of slow lumbering bigs for several minutes at a time in their second unit, and you can kind of bum slay against them, or they're going small and Drummond has an opportunity to, get into the post and score that way. Obviously, Drummond is really out there to get a lot of offensive rebounds, and he does that quite well out of post-ups as well. But, it's not a very efficient look for the Bulls, whether it's through him or out of a kickout.
Right. You also in this column, and we'll keep that for the diehards, but just to briefly mention it, the offensive blueprint when you're talking about percentage of possessions that are post-up or post-up and passes compared to other play options, spot ups, pick and rolls, transition offense, offensive rebounds, ISO possessions, running off screens. And, you kind of pose this question of like, well, if these post-up possessions are not going that well and are not yielding a great efficiency, then like where else should Billy go with his offensive stuff? You also touch on, a Coby and Ayo's efficiency in their isolation possessions and their pick and roll possessions. If it's you, where do you kind of shade away from some of those post-up touches with Vooch and or Drummond that aren't yielding well and do more of? I know you said like, hey, well, DeMar, some more, spam DeMar, but that's not feasible.
Exactly. And I mean, that's really the question. So when you think about like what Billy's options are, I mean, if you're not going to go to Vooch in the post or DeMar in the post or Drummond in the post, what are you going to do? So what are your options? You can run a pick and roll with DeMar or Coby or Io. You can run an isolation with one of those guys. And those can result in other things. So you can get into a spot up out of that where you're driving, collapsing the defense and kicking it out. I think that's really what the Bulls want to do best, but they're shooting the second highest frequency of spot up. 30% of their offense is essentially coming from spot ups, but they're in the 25th percentile in efficiency. So they're not efficient in those situations either. Really, it's like...
So they're bottom 5 in efficiency in a third of their offensive possessions?
Exactly. And
it's terrible.
Really, when you look at like what the other options are, there just aren't a lot of good ones. And the post-ups do become one of the more efficient plays that they have. And again, I think that says less about what the actual play is or how the team is being coached and more about what options the coach has and the flaws in the roster construction, because you're in a position where the best thing they can do is run these post-ups and try to get kickouts. And that's just not a very efficient look. So, what are some other alternatives? You could go to Coby and Io in isolation more. That has not been very fruitful either. Those guys have improved a lot, but their efficiency out of isolations and pick and rolls has been even lower than some of the success rate that they've had with these post-ups. So just not a lot of good options here. I think, like I said, it really does circle back to the roster construction, what kind of options are available. But I think from an even bigger, more kind of macro sense, you think about like how this team has been successful. So much of it is DeMar running pick and roll or DeMar and Vooch posting up. Mm-hmm. And as much as Coby and Io have improved, and they really have improved, this team just relies so heavily on those guys that it makes you wonder how the front office is going to see team building moving forward. I don't think this is a situation where, maybe DeMar moves on this summer. They're going to be able to like hang at that same level. I really do think the bottom would fall out without DeMar.
Yeah, I think so too. Maddie in the comments pointing out the player who misses Zach the most is Vooch. They had great chemistry. That pick and roll was deadly. I mean, Zach and Vooch did develop a solid two-man game together at times, which especially when DeMar was also on the floor, we always talked about that trio and their, plus minus numbers when they were all on the floor together and it being terrible. But it's like, well, how is it, that way? If DeMar is drawing this defensive attention, you got those two to run that two-man game. And
that's the other thing is that's why you see so much of, obviously you've got the post-ups and the isolations and stuff, but like that's why the Bulls have really turned up their offensive rebounding this year, because there's not a lot of ways for them to create offense. So instead they have to find efficient ways to score. Those are offensive rebounding, because you have really good looks on the second chance points, either kickouts or just tip-ins.
Yeah.
Getting to the foul line, where you just see DeMar getting those, rip-through fouls, pump fake fouls, just grifting as much as possible. I've written about that recently, so go check that out. But there just aren't a lot of good options. And like I said, as great as Coby and Io have been, they're not primary, A1 creators at this point in their career.
You mentioned offensive rebounding in that list of potential alternative options, and it's something that, Billy's made note of early and often. We're trying to put an emphasis on offensive rebounds, and it's certainly, taken a hit to their transition defense this season very noticeably.
Absolutely.
But, in your chart about their offensive blueprint, they are 7th in the NBA as far as frequency of offensive rebounding possessions, but much like a lot of these offensive play style categories, they're only 28th in efficiency on those offensive rebound possessions.
Yeah, and I think some of that is just Drummond getting like 3 or 4 tip-ins. Like that's dragging the percentage down on those.
Or Drummond getting fouled, not making the putback, and splitting a pair or missing a pair.
Exactly. That factors in too. But, I mean, still, you're getting 1.03 points per possession on those, which is significantly higher than when you're running a pick and roll.
Right.
It's 0.96. So even though like relative to the rest of the league, that's a low number, it's still really valuable offense relative to the rest of what you can do.
Right.
And some of this stuff is like, it's not something that you can like consistently go to on a play-by-play basis. It's like opportunistically, can you crash the boards? Can you get out in transition? Those are high efficiency forms of offense, but you can't just like make your whole team run and operate around those things. So you have to go into the post. You have to go into pick and rolls to set that stuff up. And like I said, opportunistically, you can go in there and get an offensive rebound. That really helps. But just when you think about the half court options, it's pick and roll, it's isolation, and it's, letting and a post up and letting a big man either make plays out of the short roll or through the post and trying to get a spot up shot out of it. So just not a lot of good options with this group.
As Rob in the comments said, roster construction continues to plague this team. SMDH. Yes, indeed. So for our CHGO diehards out there, if you haven't gotten a chance to read it yet today, maybe a little halftime reading during tonight's Bulls-Nets game, check out the latest GOAT 101 newsletter. It's great stuff. More on what we were just discussing. And if you aren't a diehard yet, here's your latest reason to go sign up. Great stuff there. All right, let's take a quick break, shout out a couple sponsors, come back and dive into what we have on deck tonight, this Bulls-Nets game, including starting lineups for both of these teams. While we're doing that, you know what to do. Hit the like button. Do it for our friend, Troll Joe. Goat, you volunteered to read some ads?
I'm volunteering
Look at
because
that!
I've heard it's baseball season. I don't know if I'm correct.
It is. As of
Obviously,
yesterday, Cubs 0-1, Sox 0-1.
That's how the Chicago teams
competed,
do it,
though.
baby.
They were really
competed.
competitive.
But if you want to play some wagers on one of your favorite baseball teams, whether it's Chicago or otherwise, look no further than Circa Sportsbook because they have the tightest money line splits. They're always striving for those minus 110 splits, unlike other sportsbooks who may use minus 115 or minus 120. Not quite as good juice on those other sportsbooks because they also keep as little money as possible on the larger market bets like futures, golf tournaments, and more. They also don't limit players based on their winnings. So if you are a high percentage gambler, higher percentage than some of the Bulls post-up offense, perhaps, look no further than Circa. They won't kick you out of their sportsbook like others might do. And they also have real people instead of the dreaded chatbots to help you out whenever you have an issue.
Chatbots!
It's the same people that run the Circa Sportsbook Resort and Casino in Las Vegas, who graciously hosted us for Summer League last year. Maybe
Sure
they'll
did.
do it again this year.
Hope to go back this year.
They were fantastic.
That place is awesome.
The best. So if you are in the market for some betting on baseball, or maybe it's the Bulls tonight, Joey might need to get a first basket from you in a second here, but download the Circa Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app to sign up today. Also, be on the lookout for Circa events, watch parties, and tailgates. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-426-2537, or text GAM, G-A-M-B, to 833-234, or visit areyourreallywinning.com.
Boom! Pregame tonight also brought to you by our friends at... What time is it? That's right, baby! Oh, if you're looking for tickets to Cubs game, Sox game, concert tickets, theater tickets in Chicago, or wherever you are, the best app to do that these days is the GameTime app. Now, an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on GameTime actually go down the closer you get to that first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee, GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. When's the Cubs home opener? Is that on Monday? Monday? We got a game, don't we? Yes. Phooey.
Hawks, big game.
Huge game.
Huge game for the play-in
Playing
standings.
home court. Huge game.
On the line.
Well, maybe that means we can't go to the Cubs home opener, but I'm looking forward to going to Wrigley very soon. So it looks like all kinds of new fun stuff going on at Wrigley this season, and there's just nothing better than being at that ballpark. If you want to get some tickets to your Cubs games, your Sox games, or anything else, you got to check out that GameTime app. The lowest price guarantee means if you, on a different ticketing app, happen to find ticket in the same section, in the same row as the seats offered on GameTime for a cheaper price, just let GameTime know, and they will credit you 110% of the difference on those ticket prices. That is the lowest price guarantee. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. For a limited time, all users can get $20 off any MLB purchase of $150 or more in the GameTime app with code FIRSTPITCH. Terms apply. That's code FIRSTPITCH, FIRSTPITCH, for $20 off from March 25th to April 14th. That's right now. Download the GameTime app. Last minute tickets, lowest price guarantee. Because go, what time is that? Game time. Oh, my goodness. All right, y'all. Diving into tonight's action, Bulls, Nets. Bulls' last chance to get a win against this Brooklyn team. With the Bulls and their injury report, Alex and Io were both still on it for the same reasons. Caruso with the ankle sprain that he's been playing through. Io, who played through a respiratory illness in their game on Wednesday, both still active tonight, both in that starting lineup. Coby, Io, DeMar, Caruso, and Vooch. So that has been the norm for the most part, so long as Caruso has been healthy, other than a couple of spot starts for Torrey Craig recently. So good news on that front. For the Nets, Will, this team is battered and beaten. It's always kind of, not to say that you root for injuries for any team, but it's kind of nice to be like, oh, there are other teams in the NBA who are dealing with as many injury problems as the Bulls are.
Honestly, I know the Bulls have dealt with a lot of injuries. A lot of teams have been missing a lot of their guys.
Yeah.
And I think it feels that way for the Bulls relative to last year when everybody was healthy for the entire season. But really, obviously, missing 3 guys who were major contributors for the full season.
Yeah.
So it's not like the Bulls aren't actually dealing with a lot, but you see teams like the Nets, and they are going through it as well.
They really are. So obviously Ben Simmons is out because, not to make light of it, but
of the Nets.
Yeah, he's the Nets Lonzo. He used to be the Sixers Lonzo. Out with that back injury that sounded like it might involve some sort of nerve damage or something. Yeah, he for sure needs a backiotomy. So no Simmons. Also out for the season recently because of a fracture in his shin is Keita Bates-Diop. So he's on the shelf. Cameron Johnson, legit player, out with a toe injury. Dennis Smith Jr. was downgraded from probable to doubtful to now also out tonight. So no DSJ. They do get Noah Clowney back in the actives list after he's been dealing with a back injury recently.
Uh-oh.
And what's that?
Uh-oh. Clowney's back. Watch out.
Watch out. Watch out for Clowney, man.
Yep.
He's actually been kind of seeing an increase in his role for this Brooklyn Nets team, and maybe some of it due to the fact that they've been so shorthanded recently. But so your starting 5 for the Brooklyn Nets tonight are Dennis Schroeder, Cam Thomas, Mikal Bridges, Claxton, and Dorian Finney-Smith. Scary lineup. And by that, I mean a definitely beatable lineup.
Definitely a beatable lineup. This Brooklyn team has been really bad this year, and it's not a situation where they're tanking for the bottom because they don't even own their pick.
Right.
It's going to, I believe, the Rockets. So last 2 weeks, 2-5, -8 net rating, 26th in offense, 17th in defense. And if you recall the last time they played, the Bulls were up for the first quarter. They had the best quarter that they had played all year to that point. Mm-hmm. And then the Nets had 14 threes in the second quarter.
That was the game where they hit 25 total threes, right?
Yep, which is
crazy.
I believe still the most the Bulls have allowed on the season. So, in any of these games, the Bulls have seen they can lose to the Pistons. They can lose to the Wizards. They can lose to these Nets if the other team gets hot and they're not executing. So not to say that this is a gimme, but certainly the way the Nets are playing right now, it feels like the Bulls should take care of them pretty easily.
The Nets are coming into this one with 2 consecutive wins, which is shocking, but they were against Toronto and Washington. So hey, the Bulls just proved to us on Monday that they are capable of losing to the Wizards. But so, the Nets have a little bit of mojo coming into this one, but this is just sort of a blah team. They're 5.5 back of Atlanta in 11th currently. So, and like you mentioned, their draft cabinet situation. Probably hey, if we can find some way to, go on a crazy tear to finish the season, I think they wouldn't mind making the play-in as opposed to protecting their draft stock. But 5.5 back with 9 or 10 to play seems very unlikely. It seems like the Nets are basically just kind of playing out the final notes of their season.
Yeah, and you look at what this team is right now. It's like I said, not very threatening. That doesn't mean that they're going to just give up. But at a certain point with some of these teams, having the front office or ownership, whatever, draw up a tank so that you can go for draft picks, that's one part of it. But I think when you are kind of out of it as a player, you're not really thinking about the draft picks. It's this season is just over. I'm ready for Cancun.
Yeah.
And it just seems obviously they just won 2 in a row, but it seems like they're kind of trending that way.
Sam in the comments saying, hey, at least we're guaranteed to play in tournament. And if we do miss the playoffs, we don't have a first round pick. The Bulls do, if you're talking about the Bulls. They owe the 25 pick to San Antonio still from DeMar sign and trade, but they do have their first round pick this year. The Bulls basically are locked in. It's now just a question of, and you mentioned the Bulls have the Hawks on Monday, who beat the Celtics again
twice in 3 days.
And dramatic fashion both times. They are now just coming into tonight's NBA action a game back of the Bulls.
Yeah,
in,
and the Bulls
in those
do,
9 and 10 spots.
The Bulls do have a tiebreaker against
do.
the Hawks, so there's another game of cushion there, but Monday's game is basically going to count for 2. So.
Yeah. Quick note on Cam Thomas, who is in the starting lineup tonight. He's been playing well all season long, but in particular, his last 5 games for the Nets, compared to his season average numbers, he's averaging just shy of 22 a game on 44.5% from the field. His last 5 games, he's averaging 26.8 on 48% shooting. So Cam Thomas is cooking. Obviously, Mikal Bridges is dangerous as always. And then meanwhile, when you come and see what the Bulls can do after pouring it on the Pacers, and we all know that the Pacers don't play defense, so good for the Bulls. You put up 125 or whatever it was, right? It was 125 to 99.
Yep.
Coby, meanwhile, You mentioned when you joined us for a piece of post game on Wednesday, Will, started 0 for 6 from the field and then kind of salvaged his night after that. But these first 4 games back from his short absence from the hip injury, he's shooting 33.8% from the field, 28% from 3. Gotta hope that we see Coby get back on track as far as getting rid of this shooting slump.
Yeah, and I think it'll just be interesting to see how much he kind of has the ball in his hands. I think the one thing that Billy's mentioned a couple times now is that in order to kind of monitor his workload, rather than taking him off the floor, they're trying to play him a little bit more off the ball, where he has been super efficient. The problem is if he's not shooting the ball well, now he just has less opportunities to get back into a rhythm where he can kind of feel out the defense, get some driving kicks and things like that. So he obviously picked it up last game. They just kind of let the floodgates open onto the Pacers, but the Bulls really need Coby to kind of get back to the form he was playing at prior to the All-Star break, because we've seen what happens when they're just, clinging to DeMar to take them home. And I just don't think that's a very sustainable source of offense for this team.
That is true. Drew is in the comments saying, we need to enter the play-in as the 10th seed. No home game for Uncle Jerry and AK.
Yeah, look at the comment on the screen.
Please beat us, Atlanta. Yeah, Coby, Mike pointed out 21 shots, 6. What did he finish? 8 of 21, I think, in their game on Wednesday. So hopefully we can see him bounce back. I also saw somebody else in the comments earlier mentioning that they wanted to see not only some Dalen Terry minutes tonight, but also some Javonte minutes. Do you think we see Javonte in the rotation tonight after that incredible plus 26 in 17 or whatever minutes off the bench in the Wednesday win?
Yeah, it's certainly possible. I think Billy feels like he can really count on him for energy, and there are times when this team is lacking that. So I can totally see it. We also got an update on Julian Phillips.
I saw that.
Whose injury is allowing the Bulls to use a injury exception.
Hardship or whatever it's called.
Thank you. To sign Javonte to a 10-day. So Julian's still in the boot. I'm not sure how long that will last, but it seems like Javonte has at least the remaining however many days on this 10-day deal, and then maybe another one to make an impact with this team, and then we'll see what happens after that. But one thing that we wanted to mention yesterday on our final edition of Bulls HQ was that even if the Bulls did retain Javonte, he would not be eligible to join the playoff roster because he signed after March 1st.
So how does that work now with those rules with the play? Would he be play-in eligible?
No, I think that counts as postseason.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's very curious to know. And like Julian, didn't they give him a 2-week timeline as far as like reevaluating? Yep. 2 weeks, right?
And I think
we got to be coming up on
Julian
it, right?
should be back by the finals though, so they shouldn't need Javonte down the line.
Well, I think this was the update from the 2 weeks. So it seems like it's going to be extended. And that was kind of my worry with this all along, is like the rules for those hardship exceptions are you have to have 4 guys out,
right?
Have to have missed 3 games each and be out for 2 more weeks.
Right.
And they
so that would mean that they would need to, with an update on Phillips, rule him out for 2 more weeks or essentially the remainder of the season.
Exactly.
Joining the Zach out, Lonzo out, Pat out, group. So yeah, it will be interesting to see what kind of update we get there, because Javonte's got to be coming up on the end of these 10 days now. I think he's been around for a week. So we shall see. I would not mind to see some Javonte action tonight. Seeing the 5 Javontes out there on Wednesday was a lot of fun. Hope we can see more of it. Flip side saying, I need more Javonte, and Javonte. That's 5. Please and thank you. Thank you for joining us on CHGO Bulls Pregame tonight. Please hit that like button on your way out if you haven't done it yet. Make sure you subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. Sign up to become a diehard if you aren't already to get the perks on perks on perks, the great deals, the discounts when you shop at the merch locker, and access to the latest GOAT 101 that dropped earlier today about the Bulls post-up offense. Great stuff there. Will _ Gottlieb, our guy, producer and pal. Joey Spathis is at Joey Spathis. I'm Bulls _ Peck. We are CHGO _ Bulls. We will see you for postgame after Bulls versus Nets. Let's watch some hoops. 9 more.